Hi there, I'm Will Studd, and thanks for watching. Here's another episode of Cheese Slices from our archives, proudly brought to you by Will Studd Selected Cheese.
Triple cream, Stilton cheddar, Emmentaler, mozzarella, camembert. I love a vegetam tequila cheese. Parmigiano Reggiano, Roquefort Brie de Meaux, and Monchagoro, River Blue and Gouda. Asiago, Wesley, Dale, Rockford, Reblochon, Halloumi, Feta, Gorgonzola cheese. Oh, Montreal Jack, Pecorino, Swiss Gruyere. I love a vegetam tequila cheese.
The Pacific Northwest state of Washington is home to an increasing number of really interesting artisan cheeses. Many of them never leave the state, so I've come here to find out more about them. The Evergreen State, as it's fondly known, is named after George Washington, the first president of the United States, and became part of the Union as the 42nd state in 1889. Bordered by British Columbia, Oregon, Idaho, and the Pacific Ocean, this remote and very beautiful region was originally home to Native American Indian tribes. Today, more than 50% of the state is still covered in natural forest, which forms an important part of the extensive lumber industry. And the most densely populated area is around the city of Seattle, which is well known as the birthplace of Starbucks coffee and home to Microsoft founder Bill Gates.
Chocolate pasta, free samples.
My first scheduled stop is Pike Place Market, which is world famous for its flying salmon and wonderful seafood. But in the past decade, it's also developed a reputation for making artisan cheese.
When we first started in 2003, we were the 8th licensed cheesemaker in the state of Washington. And now there are over 60, not quite 10 years later, which is really about the same kind of thing that happened to the wine industry in Washington State, where if you went back 25 years ago, there was about 15 wineries, and now there's over 1,000. So Washington State is really kind of a little bit late to the party of developing its own terroir and creating local products, but is coming on with a vengeance now, coming strong.
Kurt is widely regarded as one of the founding fathers of Washington State's cheese revolution, and his Beecher's cheese shop at Pike's Place is the showcase for locally made artisan cheese. This flagship dairy sits on a prominent corner of the market, and cheese is handmade here every day under the gaze of curious passers-by. The dairy shop stocks Beecher's cheese and a collection of Kurt's favourite cheeses from Washington State, plus benchmarks from all over the world.
Here at Pike Place Market, we get a lot of people where they've never ever tried artisan cheese at all. And so it's important to me that we make our cheese, at least some of our cheese, in such a way that everyone who tries it likes it and starts their interest and love of artisan cheese. And so our standard flagship, which is pasteurized, which is a little bit straighter ahead flavor, but clearly premium, that's the one for the standard tourist. But the person who is really more of a cheese geek always gravitates right to the raw milk.
I'm with you, definitely. Beecher's cheeses were delicious, particularly those made from raw milk, which I guess now makes me a cheese geek, according to Kurt. And I was delighted when he offered to share a secret recipe for what he claims is the world's best mac and cheese. But more about that one later. Pike's Place is not the only place to find great artisan cheese in Seattle, and a growing number of farmers markets have provided local cheesemakers with the opportunity to directly meet customers and sell their produce.
I'm crossing Puget Sound to visit Washington State's only organic cow's milk dairy making cheese on the farm. It's based at Samish Bay, and I've heard they make 25 different varieties of cheese.
The name Samish is derived from the Native American tribe who inhabited the region, and this small organic farmstead was established by Suzanne and Roger Welsher to make cheese from the milk of their mixed herd of organic cows. On arrival, Roger ushered me into the maturation room to sample some of his creations.
Can I try the chive one too?
Absolutely.
Because when I arrived, I saw you sitting there with fresh chives in your lap, fishing the grass out.
Yeah.
Okay. Fishing the weeds out. You grow them all yourself?
Yeah.
And tell me how you got into cheese making originally.
I bought the farm 15 years ago. We got started 14 years ago with making cheese.
Right.
Yeah.
This is like simple fresh cheese, but that taste of fresh chives just really leaps out of it. Really, really nice. Love it.
Oh, good.
They just work so well together. And then what do we got further back here?
This one's, take a small bite first,
Yeah.
unless you really like hot. But the habaneros are 3-4 times as hot as the jalapenos.
Whoa! That's really hot.
Yeah.
I might need a glass of water in a minute. Whoa, that is hot. That's great though.
Yeah.
And it's got this really crumbly, creamy texture, which sort of like dissipates it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Whilst Roger and I were busy sampling cheese, in the dairy next door, cheesemaker Chad Clark was hard at work preparing the first batch of cheese for the day.
You know, we're making several cheeses today.
Okay.
With the Ladysmith, and then we'll pull out the Queso Fresco,
Right.
and then the Gouda at the end, because the Queso Fresco is cooked more than the Ladysmith, and the Gouda is cooked more than the Queso Fresco.
Ah,
So
very
the
clever.
Ladysmith is a softer cheese, cooked less. So after we take the Queso Fresco out, we'll drain part of the whey, replace it with hot water.
Got it,
Second
yeah.
cook is hot water cook.
Yeah.
And then we drain all the way out at the end.
Okay. This is so clever to use a great big vat like this, which is very efficient, and then break it down to 3 different cheeses. And I've never seen someone take a whole vat like this and turn out 3 different varieties of cheese.
Yeah, well, we've got 30 cows' milk going into here.
Now I can see loads of whey pouring off there into a bucket.
Yeah, we
there.
have a bucket there, and then we'll bring out, when we're draining more, we're going to pump it out, and we have a tank out back, and the whey goes to our pigs.
You've got pigs as well.
Yeah, we raise pigs because they do really well on whey, so that's why we got pigs. We sell beef and pork.
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, so you've got sort of combination of all things.
Yeah, and we do yogurt, cheese, beef, and pork. That's what we sell.
I really liked the holistic approach to cheese making at this dairy, and the way Roger was not afraid to experiment with unusual natural ingredients. But it was time to leave and return across the Sound, where I'd arranged to visit Mount Townsend Dairy, whose cheese I'd seen in the farmers market in Seattle.
There were hundreds and hundreds of small family dairies out here, and right now there are only 3 dairies left within about a 50-mile radius of where we are.
Really?
Yeah.
Only 3?
Only 3.
50 miles.
And there were hundreds. This was, like I said, the largest creamery in the state was about 10 miles down the road from here at the turn of the century. And there's us, and there's a few small people making goat cheese now as well. So
And that's it?
that's it. People were so supportive of us, and we got so much help. And then when we actually brought our product to the first farmers market, it just disappeared within the first couple hours. Everything that we had, and it really was hugely rewarding for us to see how excited people were about what we were doing. We have products that range from soft ripened cheeses to soft spreadable cheeses. We have some wash rind cheeses as well.
Okay, so hard cheese, soft cheese. Do you make blue?
We don't know. We're not doing any blue here. We're afraid of that.
Okay.
I just hear, these tales that if you make a blue cheese, then you make all blue cheese, and I know that's not 100%
Fresh curds?
true, but fresh curds, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we got fresh curds.
This is fresh curd land, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's very close to the other side,
Yeah.
the border.
Ryan explained that the region had a strong sense of community, and this they had tried to reflect in the names of their cheese.
This is C-Stack, which is our signature cheese. This is the first cheese we started making. It's a soft ripened cow's milk cheese, Ash-Ripened.
Right.
Real lactic make, so it's got a nice sort of tangy interior and more earthy tones around the outside. I think people really enjoy the saltiness of this cheese.
And then what else we got here? We got Cirrus.
Our Cirrus is a more of a traditional soft ripened cheese.
And the milk for this comes from just up the road.
It's about 25 miles away. We work with a dairy that comes and delivers our milk every other day.
That's nice. Mild, creamy, but you really notice the difference versus the C-Stack and the saltiness. Yeah, that's nice too.
Much creamier, much less of a tangy finish that you get with the C-Stack as well.
Very nice. Now you've got a couple of hard ones here.
The first up here is our Campfire. That's a smoked version of our New Moon, which is a jack that we call our Washington Jack.
I don't normally like smoked cheese, but that's very special.
We try to balance it. You know, we don't want the smoke to be overpowering to the point where all you get is the smoke.
Leaving Port Townsend and heading inland across most of the state, I was on my way to visit a highly recommended goat cheese dairy located near the town of Rice, near the Canadian border. The next dairy on my list is one of Washington State's smallest and certainly one of its most respected. It's based here in beautiful Pleasant Valley, and its name is Quillisascut. This Farmstead cheese dairy was founded more than 25 years ago by Rick and Lora Misterley. And today the couple run a herd of just 25 goats and produce a small number of very special aged raw milk cheeses. Rick is responsible for looking after the animals and marketing, whilst Lora is in charge of making all the cheese.
There was nothing here when we moved here, and so originally we lived in a little tent for the summer and set up an outdoor kitchen. And we moved here with 1 milk goat and 4 goat kids. The interest rates were 21%, and there were no jobs around here. My background had been in construction, and no one was building because interest rates were so high. And I ended up having to take a job on a dairy, working 55 hours a week, a split shift, being there at 5 in the morning and about 4 in the afternoon, making minimum wage. And so, you know, things were a little tough.
Rick went on to explain that the couple run workshops on the farm and regularly teach groups on the pleasures of garden-to-table living and cheese making.
We really thought that we should really go for the up-and-coming cooks, people that I met in the restaurant that were interns there or still in culinary school and working. And so that was really the beginning of the cooking school. And 10 years ago, then we had the building ready to go, and we've been doing that ever since.
The small herd is milked for 10 months of the year. And on the day I visited, there was just enough milk to make 3 cheeses. So I joined Lora in the dairy to see how this precious cheese was made.
It's got a really nice texture. Nice, really lovely finish too. Sort of slightly crumbly, but still moist. And then got that lovely salty, tangy, clean goat cheese flavour right at the end. Let's have another taste. Is that about right? What do you like about your cheese?
It's fairly mild, but it has flavour. You know, it's not a hard goat cheese to approach.
No. Really nice and very special. One of only 3 of a batch. Thank you. In the 1890s, the southwest Washington region was the centre of a new timber industry. But by the 1950s, much of it had started to disappear because the old-growth forests had been logged out. The small farms in the region supplying the towns built around the mills also started to decline, and it's only in the last 10 years that a new generation of cheesemakers has moved into the region.
Willapa Hills Farmstead has been producing cheese since 2008 from the milk of their flock of East Frisian and Leghorn sheep. Cheesemaker Amy and her husband Stephen decided on a lifestyle change. They left city life far behind and have since created a highly successful dairy that's quickly earned a reputation for its range of quality cheeses.
Tell me what we're making here.
We are making Willapa White. It's a very fresh sheep's milk cheese.
Okay. And where did you start with this?
Well, we started by milking the sheep
Yesterday
morning. Yesterday morning,
Yeah.
yes. And yesterday afternoon, I pasteurized the milk
Yeah.
and added the cultures, a little bit of salt, put it in the Cambros,
All right, yeah.
added a little bit of the microbial rennet,
Yep.
and set it overnight.
So very long, slow
About 16 hours.
setting. Yeah?
Yes.
Great. Why so long and slow?
You want the lactic acid to develop very slowly over a long period of time. Helps improve the flavor.
And also give the cheese a lovely texture as
Yes,
well.
absolutely.
Amy makes a large variety of cheese spreads, yogurts and cheeses. And when she's finished the morning batch, we gathered up some of her favourites to taste.
So tell me, when did you first decide you wanted to start making cheese? Was some sort of religious experience that told you had to start making cheese?
Pretty close. Actually, probably the roots of it are probably 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were actually on a trip to the wine country in California and just did a little kind of dreaming about wouldn't it be nice, and just did a little soul searching and decided to look for property. So we looked for about a year and a half.
And sort of like a break, country break, and came here. And how many acres have you got here?
This farm is about 146 on the main farm.
Right.
And then we lease another 60.
Right. Now, this blue is really, really lovely. I'll tell you, it's fantastic blue. Really,
Thank you.
really, really nice. You've got another cheese here.
Yes.
What's this called? Please give me another silly name.
This is You Old Cow.
What? No.
No insult intended.
Yeah.
So obviously
That's this one here.
it's a blend of
Yeah.
sheep and cow milk, so the ewe and the cow. Very loosely inspired by a Pecorino Romano in terms of, as we tried to shape the recipe and dial it in, going after some of those characteristics by the choice of our cultures and whatnot. So that will actually, we're making it in a 15-pound barrel, and we're hoping to do about a 5 or 6 month version and then a 12-month version.
After tasting just some of the lovely cheeses made here, I've no doubt that Stephen and Amy will continue to be very successful. But as they were busy getting ready for a barn dance that afternoon, they were anxious to send me off to visit a dairy not far away. Just up the road, I came to the picturesque 100-year-old farming property known as the Black Sheep Creamery. Devastated in 2007 by a massive flash flood that saw the loss of much of their flock, owners Brad and Meg Gregory have managed to rebuild it with support from neighbours, friends, and their many loyal customers.
Wasn't there a story about how you lost all your sheep at one stage?
Yep, in '07 we were hit by a flood here in the valley. Several farms were. So it was kind of a freak flash flood. So
That was the river over there, yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
So it came up, without warning. We didn't have any way to know how bad this was going to be, and it ended up much higher than anything else had been that people knew about. So we had no time to get the sheep anywhere. So we lost 75 out of 100 of our sheep.
And how did you replace them?
A couple of big donations from people of animals.
Okay. Local people?
No, from Wisconsin, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then we had sold a ram locally to someone. She gave that back to us. And so we were able to keep, at least through him, some of our same genetics.
Fantastic. That would have been heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? You must have wondered, am I going to keep going?
Yeah. Not really. We just got up, and came back, started cleaning the next day, and on we went. And every day, more and more people kept coming in to help, an amazing amount of people. And so we just kept on rolling.
Just to keep on rolling, as Greg puts it, must have been incredibly hard. But the family's perseverance has put the dairy back on track. And after our stroll with the sheep, I was very keen to sample some of their award-winning cheese.
So tell me about this cheese. It's obviously natural rind. It looks a little bit more crumbly than the others that we've tried.
Needs to be drier.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is based off an English recipe, which is kind of entertaining because we've asked lots of people from England what it tastes like to them, and we get several different answers. So
it's really nice. And I tell you, that crumbly, rich texture goes really well with that little bit of minerally salty tang.
It is.
Really, really lovely. Which I actually love your logo, honestly. It's really good. I really do. I really do. And I love the way the ears sort of come up over the top. So thank you very much. Really, really good. Yeah.
On my return to Seattle, I had one very important appointment. It was time to check out the world's greatest mac and cheese recipe from Beecher's. And it begins by par-cooking macaroni till it's al dente. Kurt then mixes melted butter and flour and stirs till it's cooked through. And just as it begins to darken, Kurt adds milk and continues to stir for a few minutes.
Okay, so here, now see, we're starting to get thick. The next kind of secret to making great mac is to add the cheese off the heat.
Off the heat?
Yeah, so turn the heat off and then add our cheese.
That's Flagship?
This is Flagship.
And which age is that?
This is a 2-year aged Flagship.
And is that the raw or pasteurized?
This is pasteurized.
Okay.
And then we're also going to add some of our Jack cheese. The combination of the two gives you the flavor and just a little bit creamy. The Jack adds a creaminess that helps.
Once the cheese has melted into the sauce, Kurt adds salt, garlic powder, and a sprinkle of chipotle powder. He then adds to this the pasta and pours it into a baking dish to be covered in more Flagship cheese and a final sprinkle of chipotle. And then it's into a moderate oven for 15 minutes.
Oh, yum. Look at that. Bubbling right there in the center and good, ready to go.
This recipe is both simple and delicious, and a great way to make a crowd-pleasing mac and cheese, where you really taste the cheese.
Cheese is really basically just the expression of grass and the climate and terroir, the soils that grow that grass. And Washington State, being kind of a rainy, more temperate climate, produces really, really incredible grass. And so the cheeses that come from that grass are really interesting, really complex, and really on the rise in terms of their quality and renown throughout the nation and the world.
Well, that's it from Cheese Slices in Washington State. I've seen some amazing new Farmstead cheeses, but one thing doesn't change. Good old-fashioned country hospitality. And I'm going to go and enjoy myself.
Cheese slices. So, do you want me to put on full blast? I don't think
full blast.
Cheese slices, Washington State.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Cheese slices in Washington State.